wait. He got the move off, but barely.
I cannot believe what we just saw.
This is not only one of the greatest endgame displays of 2023, but one of the greatest chess commentary moments of the entire year as well. The Michael Jordan reference will be unpacked soon. This is Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces. His opponent is Vidit Gujarati. It's the Speed Chess Championship, Blitz Chess, 3 minutes on the clock, as you can see on the left here, and they get 1 second back per move. Hold on to your seatbelts here, because we're diving in right now with d4. Vidit kicks off. This is online chess, and Magnus goes knight f6. c4, e6. We head back down, a queen's gambit declined, exchange variation, bishop g5, very natural, and Magnus goes bishop e7, e3. Now the main moves I'm drawing on the board here, but Magnus doesn't do them. He loves going down a sideline, right? He plays pawn h6 immediately. The bishop drops back, and now bishop g4. Vidit, funnily enough, doesn't blunder his queen. No Botez gambit today. He goes queen c2. Of course, queen b3, also playable, but not selected. We get castles now. h3 drives back the bishop. It's a big pawn there right now, not ideal, and bishop d3. There's a better sniper, eyeballing the black king. And now Magnus continues his strange chess. You know, does he get his bits out? Well, not fully right now. Instead, he drops this steed back. Now we see an exchange. Queen recaptures. Knight g to e2. Of course, it was playable to put the knight there, but we'll see Vidit's point in a moment, because after knight d6, knight f4, pressuring the center, c6 finally, we get castles, knight d7, and the rook centralizes onto the e-file, but leaving this one here. Vidit is gearing up for a pawn push. Magnus does the same, and f3. Here we go. He wants the e4 break. The other plan you commonly see is a minority attack on the queen side. But here Vidit going for that central thrust at the heart of Magnus's camp. And Magnus plays something dubious here. Queen to h4. His idea, you push, I take your knight. But if Vidit had found knight c to e2 here, it's a great move, because you cover the other one, e4 threatened, big position for white, but missed. Instead we see queen f2, swapping the ladies. Obviously Magnus does that, excuse me, loves a good endgame, right? And now he goes g5, drives back the knight. If you take, you're actually helping black. e5 coming soon, and you open this rook down towards this bomb cloud king. So knight fe2 played, f5 from Magnus, seizing huge space, h4 played. Now this is a weird looking move to the untrained eye. Aren't you just giving a pawn? Well, yes, but you're also giving a monster outpost for the knight on f4, and the rook's coming to the h-file to recoup the pawn anyway. So don't take, not positionally good. King g7 instead, preparing to fight for that h-file. Rook h1, knight f6, h takes, and now knight g3. Vidit maneuvering, looking to move the forces forward, but Magnus uncorks a thunderbolt here. Look at the positioning of the old bomb cloud monarch. He jumps forward bravely into the, I was about to say abyss, but it's not abyss, into the attack. And now we see bishop takes, because if pawn takes back, opening up the rook to check, and after the king sidesteps, this is a sample line. Black doing great with this rook invasion. So coming back, we didn't see pawn takes, bishop takes. Now this one takes, and rook h5. Nice activation, hits the unprotected pawn. You can do an immediate king g6 here, but instead Magnus flicks in this one. Because if you take with check, king f6, now you don't have time to actually win back this pawn. G takes on f3, because your rook's under fire. You know, it has to move, then black takes here, doing well. So instead, pawn recaptures played, king g6, now the rook's double, and knight f7. Very important defensive maneuver. Stops the rook invasion and prepares to fight for the file. So knight ce2 now played, rook h8, we see this mass liquidation down here, they all go into the blender, knight c1, come into those dark squares that I'm highlighting here, very nice circuit, knight f7, knight d3, king f6 and b3. These grandmasters know the right pawn structures to set up. You know, Magnus might have used that c4 square otherwise. So b6 from Magnus, he keeps an eye on this hop forward. Now we get e4, captures was played, you can take back with the e-pawn, different game, white gets a pass pawn, black gets a pass pawn, but knight takes, check, selected instead. The king comes to f5, knight g3 check, we get some manoeuvring here, but it's actually Vidit who doesn't repeat the position. He brings in that king, Magnus centralizes the bishop, knight b4 attacks it, the king drops back and we see a takes here. Pawn recaptures, knight g3, knight d6. We're in a pure knight's endgame here. And if you love your endgames and learning endgames, then there's never been a better time to tell you about the Epic Chess community, which launched today on Discord. The link is in the description, completely free to head over, enter the chat right now, and then you've got the exclusive content coming soon. GM Sam Shankland, former US chess champion, already signed up to give an endgame talk and so much more. Interaction with myself, interaction with others, find trusted opponents, and we're doing a huge giveaway. $1,000 for anyone who signs up. In the first 100 people here, we're going into a giveaway, giving it away to celebrate the launch, right? Get on over there, and for the real exclusive content, head into that members section. Now I digress, let's get back to this game. I'm way too excited on the community. We get king d3 played, knight f5. Both players now do some great shuffling. It's high level maneuvering. It's an absolute dead drawn position. Zeros, zeros, zeros. But Magnus has made his career trying to squeeze blood out of a stone in positions such as this. He is the end game GOAT for games like this where he squeezes, squeezes, squeezes. Can he get the job done here? So now we get king d2 played. Why not a3, right? Drive this knight somewhere, then take on this check here, then take on this d5 pawn after captures here. It was all playable. It's just a different variation, right? Crazy stuff going on. It's very tricky. Vidit instead goes king d2, stopping knight c2, but now king f4 from Magnus. He gets hunting on this f3 pawn. So the king covers, king g3, super active, a3, Vidit now goes for some play, and we get a very similar variation here. This pawn attacked. Magnus ignores and takes this one. This is running fast. Knight takes on b6, g4, and now if you push your pawn, which you'd love to do, you're just not in time. Yes, you do make a queen, but not even this. Queen d1, winning the queen after the king moves. There's queen e3, checkmate. I mean, look at that knight completing the mating there. That is awesome. So you can't push the pawn. Vidit goes knight d7. It's a high level super GM maneuver because when Magnus keeps pushing, he comes back with check and he's just in time to get inside and stop that pawn advancing for the moment. It's so tricky. Magnus goes knight b5. They're playing on seconds here. d5 on the board. Knight d6 blockades. Now we get knight g2 check, king f2, knight f4, king f3 hits the knight, knight back to e2, g2 is getting critical. The knight's in a position now to stop the pawn for the time being, but after king f1, king d4, here Vidit goes wrong after Magnus's knight f7, because he should now come king c4 and go after this a pawn. Yes, knight g5 comes here, but now you push this one, the knight can take on h3. You didn't want to take there, by the the way, or the queen is made. But white also gets a queen. You can block this check and you can't start exchanging, whoops, or else it's going to be a draw. The king comes over here. So black technically better, but a lot of work to be done here. Vidit still had chances to fight basically. But coming back to the game, instead we see king e3, and it's a huge mistake in the time pressure because now the brilliancy comes, which we just saw a flavour of, knight to g5. Vidit lost on time. The knight's just simply overloaded. If you capture, you make a baby girl with check. This one's way too slow. Absolutely game over.
Oh, wait. He got the move off, but barely.
I cannot believe what we just saw. You know, people reported this while watching Michael Jordan play basketball. Even season ticket holders from the Bulls kept marveling every time he took off from the free throw line or put up a 50-point performance. I've commentated Magnus Carlsen for most of my commentary career, but every time I see him winning an endgame like that, it's unbelievable in its own way because he's not playing amateurs. He's playing amazing endgame players in their own right. People who themselves are capable of squeezing out an equal endgame against players like Naroditsky. The fact that Magnus Carlsen does it to them is pretty insane.
I hope you enjoyed, and check out the link below to access the epic chess community, the greatest chess community in the world we're gonna build over here. So get in early on the ground floor and let's go hang out together in that space. Thanks very much for watching, and for another epic game of chess, check out the video on screen. Cheers.